So my name is Gavin Durkin and I'm married to Carol. We have 3 kids, Beth, who is not here today, she's in England, Cameron, who is here, and Eva. This was my grandparents' house here, and I suppose from a very young age I knew I loved farming. I lived and breathed it. This week I've found out that I'm the 6th generation farmer here to farm this land. I suppose that's as far back as we can go at the moment, so 6 generations, I suppose, and I'm very proud to be the 6th generation farmer. The sections of our land is permanent pasture, silage fields, traditional hay meadows, boglands and natural woodlands. The stock on the farm, we keep roughly around 35 cows. The main breeds would be on our farm would be Shorthorn, Angus and Limousin. Other enterprises on the farm are we run a small flock of sheep. I started organic farming in 2015. It wasn't a big change for us because I suppose a lot of the things we were doing with the land, we weren't forcing it, we weren't pushing it. We had very little fertiliser use. Other things we do on the farm to make it sustainable. I suppose our farm is species rich. It is very important to us to protect and nurture the land and animal and wildlife on it. We planted an orchard. We already had bees on the farm, protecting the wildlife on the farm too, so we restricted, I suppose, the time of year we put cattle down onto the boglands. That's important, and not to graze it too tightly. We put cattle down at certain times of the year that are not poaching the ground and that it's not grazed tightly because of for the ground nesting birds and for the hares that's trying to rear their young. And also that we have sightings of nesting pair of curlews in the area as well, so we just don't want to do any damage or disturb anything. Another thing we're involved in is social farming. So I myself work with people with disabilities. I'm working with them for 10 years now.
So hello everybody, how are you? I am Charlotte and I am the Regional Development Officer for Social Farming Ireland. I would just want to thank Gavin and Carol for inviting me along today to speak. So what is social farming? Social farming offers people who use health and social care services and people who are disadvantaged in some way to engage in ordinary activities and meaningful activities on family-run farms.
Just before we finish up, folks, my son Cameron has done up a poem of his own accord here and he wants to read it out today. A little bit about nature. So Cameron.
Many people stand perched at their doorstep listening for life, but only a lucky few find it. As the sparrowhawk dives down and begins the chase with a young leopard hare, the curlew weaves his nest of sticks and dry grass. The unpredictable Irish weather drives the fox back to its lair, and we too are driven back from our work to seek refuge. That's when we sit around the fire joking of motley, accompanied by a warm chamomile. We listen as the barn owl pounces on a shrew as it pioneers through the grass, and we listen as the fox chirps in the night. As Mother Nature awakens for the day, so too does the life on our diverse and ever-changing farm.
My name is Deirdre. For the last kind of 15 years or so, most of the work that I've been doing has been about and with farmers and farming. And I suppose it's been my way of trying to figure out the relationship between the agri bit and the cultural bit, and somehow bring what it is that artists know about thinking about our relationship with the world and more specifically with the land, together with what I've learnt over the decades from farmers about farming. I wanted to read a little bit from John McGahern's memoirs of growing up in Leitrim. The soil in Leitrim is poor, in places no more than an inch deep. Underneath is daub, a blue-grey modelling clay, or channel, a compacted gravel. Neither can absorb the heavy rainfall. Rich crops of rushes and wiry grasses keep the thin clay from being washed away. The fields between the lakes are small, separated by thick hedges of whitethorn, ash, blackthorn, adder, alder, sally, rowan, wild cherry, green oak, sycamore, and the lanes that link them onto the Iron Mountains are narrow, often with high banks. The hedges are the glory of these small fields.
Yeah, no, it's just a network of hedges on the farm here. It's really exceptional, and lots of all the small enclosures. There's quite a network of hedgerows. I'd say if you tally them all up, it's quite a distance.
In a way, I think we have to start valuing hedgerows the way that we value public art. Do you know? That it's not this overlooked thing that sits at the side of the road. It's an incredibly important piece of heritage.
Rushes. Rushes are a major hassle, but they're also important. But there are two rushes here in this field that are, one is quite useful, and this is probably sharp flowered rush, and you can see it here, just coming into flower now. What's good about sharp flowered rush, it's quite it's very accommodating to other species. It's got quite an open habit, so other species, particularly flowering herbs, can grow up through it. So it's sharing its space with other plants, and what we want in a good grassland is diversity and as many different species as possible. So a species of rush that is not overly competitive and is not a bully is probably a welcome species. So one of the things when we're kind of assessing a grassland for ecological value and ecological quality, we look for what we call indicator species. And I have here some what we call positive indicators. So if you have these in your field, then you know your field is generally semi-improved. It's not been overly changed down through the years. And so this here is greater bird's foot trefoil. Quite a scrambler, likes to clamber up through taller vegetation. So devil's bit scabious, although not flowering yet, is another very important positive indicator. If you've devil's bit in your field, then that's another very good sign. Very common down, like probably County Fermanagh is probably the kind of stronghold for marsh fertility, I would imagine, in Northern Ireland by a long way. Just because there's so much rush pasture. This is what we'd call rush pasture.
About 10 years ago, I did a lot of work with it was 15 years ago now that I think about it, about turf and the cutting of turf. It was when the government was in the process of delegating special areas of conservation for raised peatlands. And there was very little consultation with farmers directly on the ground. So farmers and families who'd been cutting turf in the same area for decades were suddenly being told, no, you can't do that there. So I did a lot of interviews with farmers at the time, and I came across a little piece talking about the bog. And I think it's really interesting because it highlights, I suppose, the complexity and the kinds of range of issues that can affect peatlands and bogs. So he says, in my day when I went to the bog, I'd hear the curlew, I'd hear a lark, I'd hear a grouse. It's a dead place now, nothing. And it's the mink and the grey crow that's wiped out the game and all of that. You wouldn't hardly hear a sound now of a lark, yet it was a constant call.
Everybody is always interested in what the inside of a beehive looks like, so you have the opportunity to see that here and come and ask me any questions. I started beekeeping in 2020, another lockdown project. It's something that I had wanted to do for a very long time, just for myself, and mostly I wanted to have a healthy sugar in the house for my kids. So that's it really, just to give you an insight into what we do. We sell our honey into different shops and restaurants across Leitrim, and lots of people here come into the farm to buy the honey directly off us as well. It takes 12 bees a full lifetime to make 1 teaspoon of honey. So if you see me giving out, if I see honey going to waste, that's why. Our daughter Eva also wrote a poem, so poetry runs in the family. And she's going to tell you, I think Eva's poem is inspired by the hecticness of our lockdown project, which was moving into this farm.
My poem is called Durkin's Farm. So I'm going to start now. One day, when a farmer was walking out his fields, he met a house with no yields. The house was so quiet you could even hear a mouse. But one day, in moved a family with a farm. They took off their seatbelts, hopped in the floor, and then said, "More we implore." So they got a dog and a cat and a new mat. They lived a happy life, the dog was a charm, and they called themselves Durkin's Farm.
My name is Deirdre O'Mahony. I'm a visual artist, and my primary concern in my work is farming and the future of food production given climate change pressures today. I'm here on the farm walk in Leitrim on Carol and Gavin's farm to talk about some of the concerns that have surfaced in my work about farming and the importance of maintaining and supporting farms that are farming for nature. So it's been extraordinary here today because I've had the opportunity to meet farmers who are farming organically on a small scale and who are banding together to try to learn from one another to make their farming sustainable into the future.
Yeah, I'd say I think it went really well. It's great to see such numbers here. I suppose the weather was a big impact too, to have such a great day here. Great to have an ecologist and an artist working with us on the farm and showing us about all the different things we have to offer on the farm.